Welcome, everyone. Welcome, one and all, to the Don Lemon Show. Lemon Live at 5, pretty close to the top of the hour. So for those of you who say 5-ish, you are wrong today. And I said I would prove you wrong. We have a really fantastic show for you planned today. It's a big show, and it's someone you want to hear from because they are the only surviving relative of the person who has really been in the headlines right now, and that's Jeffrey Epstein. But let me just tell you, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark Epstein, is going to join us here on the Don Lemon Show. So let me just tell you that Donald Trump is overseas, and he is trying to change the subject with announcing new things about, he's got a trade agreement with the EU and all of that stuff, right? And still trying to get this Epstein story out of the headlines. And so far, it is not working. I'm sure Mark Epstein is happy about that because Mark has a lot of questions about what happened with his brother and his death. And he says it's just not adding up. But moments from now, we'll talk about that. Also, the folks who support Donald Trump, some of his main supporters, especially those with the biggest microphones, with the biggest platforms, a social media following out of this world, and that is Joe Rogan, is now saying that he has questions about supposedly what the FBI has found, what they have reported that they have found. And he wants to know why, what he believes there's this misinformation. I say that to say, in this whole, whatever it is you want to call it that's happening, all this mishigas and everything, this is still dividing the MAGA base, the Donald Trump base. This is, as Joe Rogan says, a line in the sand for him, and he has questions. And not only does he have questions, other people who have big platforms, who carried his water, who promoted him, supported him, endorsed him during the election, are having the same questions. Okay? So as someone in the chat says, Joe Rogan, I think it's Red Marie Martini, says Joe Rogan is the cause of misleading information. But that may be true. But on this one, it's interesting because he has been pretty much on Donald Trump's side, lockstep, since forever. So thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit the like, the thumbs up, and become a member. It's important for us to stay viable on these streaming streets. Let's get to the news, okay? I want to bring in a man who has been on this very program, raising lots of those questions. We had him on at least when this whole second round of information, the FBI coming out and saying, oh, well, they believe that Jeffrey Epstein did it to himself. When the whole thing, when Donald Trump says, I don't want to put any more information out there, he's been on the show because he knows it's time to talk. Why do they not want this information out? Joining me now is Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you very much. So I want to ask you, I'm going to get to the nitty-gritty of the investigation and what you have questions about. But I just want to play for you, Mark, one person who, surprisingly, it has a very similar take as you, what you have been trying to say and tell people for quite some time now. It seems like maybe the MAGA base, or at least their mouthpieces, are coming around. Here's what Joe Rogan said recently.
That's just going to hang around.
This is a line in the sand.
Yeah.
This one's
Yeah,
a
not
line in
the
the
line
sand.
in the sand, the
Because
other
this
one.
is one
Previous
where
soundbite from this morning. The soundbite regarding the information around the death of Jeffrey Epstein and Dr. Baden. That is the soundbite that we need. So, Mark, until we get there, he's basically saying that Dr. Biden, according to the autopsy, Dr. Biden was there. Dr. Biden had examined you. You asked Dr. Baden, Dr. Michael Baden, to be there when your brother had his autopsy, when he was examined. And Dr. Baden is a forensic pathologist. He has done many, many, many autopsies, and he knows this information. Let me play for him. Let me play for you, Mark, before we get there. This is what Dr. Baden said shortly after there was the autopsy was done. Here it is.
I was asked by the brother, the next of kin,
to be at the autopsy. And at the autopsy on day one, there were findings that were unusual for suicidal hanging and more consistent with ligature homicidal strangulation, which included...
And it was suggested at the time that he committed suicide by doing what?
By hanging. At the time he was found allegedly hanging by a homemade ligature of sheets.
Are you saying you don't think it was suicide?
I think that the evidence points toward homicide rather than suicide.
Why?
Because there are multiple 3 fractures in the hyoid bone, the thyroid cartilage, that are very unusual for suicide and more indicative of strangulation, homicidal strangulation.
So, Mark, you've been saying this for such a long time. Here's the other person who's saying it now. Here's Joe Rogan.
Okay.
Epstein stuff is so crazy because when Kash Patel was on here and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work. Because there's nothing I can, the guy's saying there's no tapes, there's no video. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows it doesn't make any sense. And then he didn't know about the Michael Baden stuff, the autopsy stuff, where it showed that he had 3 broken bones in his neck, which never happens when you hang yourself. Even when you like leap from somewhere with a rope around your neck and it snaps your neck, you never have 3 broken bones.
He's in a prison cell. He's not launching himself off the first floor balcony.
The whole thing was nuts. And then he's like, well, we have a film. We're going to release that film. And the film has a fucking minute missing from it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think we're babies? Like, what is this?
I'm not a conspiracy guy by
you
nature.
Are today.
But I am today. Today, I'm fully on board with this shit.
Everybody's in today.
Yeah.
What do you say to that, Mark?
Well, he's right on the mark. Dr. Biden, you said he did many, many autopsies. He's done about 500 autopsies because he's been on a special commission that was started in the 1970s to investigate prison deaths and prison suicides. So, and he has never seen 3 broken bones in a suicidal hanging like that. Occasionally you get 1, maybe 2. I've consulted with other pathologists, and they showed me a report that came out of the Philippines just studying the cases of broken bones in the neck from hangings. And a certain percentage will have 1 broken bone, a smaller percentage will have 2, and there was no mention of 3 broken bones in a suicidal hanging of this type. So, and I'm glad he mentioned Kash Patel, because Kash Patel, came out in a government hearing declaring it's a suicide. And he said, a suicide when you see one. And I laughed at that because how many suicides has he seen? And what's his expertise? And he never saw Jeffrey's body. All the people that are adamantly claiming that it was a suicide, even the chief medical examiner, Barbara Sampson, who later declared it a suicide, they never saw the body. I can't be any more clear than that. The 2 highly qualified forensic pathologists that did the autopsy came out of the autopsy and said they couldn't call it a suicide because it looks too much like a homicide. I was there at the time. They told that to me and the other people that were there. So, and then that, you don't see that in any of the government reports, that it was first determined to be more likely a homicide than a suicide. That's been brushed under the carpet. Nobody wants to address that. But you get Kash Patel with his infinite wisdom saying, a suicide when you see one. What did he see?
Mark, I have to say, you've been on the show a couple of times, and I know that there are folks out there who are saying there have been folks who are refuting Dr. Biden's information, right? Which they've been refuting the information. Even the medical examiner dismisses doubts about Epstein's autopsy. The medical examiner who ruled Jeffrey Epstein's death a suicide immediately pushed back Wednesday against the suggestion by a longtime forensic pathologist hired by Epstein's family that some of the evidence indicates homicide. Chief medical examiner, and her, Dr. Barbara Sampson, you know her?
Well, I've never met her, but I know who she is. Yes.
You know her. What do you think? Is she saying, no way, it's not true?
Well, first of all, Dr. Biden used to be the chief medical examiner of New York City years ago. So, extremely qualified. And again, she never saw the body. And it's not just the broken bones, it's the ligature mark on Jeffrey's neck doesn't really match up to the way they say he was found. We were trying for almost 4 years to find out what position Jeffrey was in when he was found. And we were not able to find that out until the Justice Department report came out about 2 years ago. And the way they described him being found doesn't really match the marks on his neck. So that's another question. If you were hanging, the way they said, you would the mark on your neck would be higher up under your chin and going up behind your ears. More straight in the middle of his neck, more going straight back. So if you were hanging the way they said, that's not the mark that would be on your neck.
Mark, I have seen, I need to tell people, I have seen a photograph. You have seen the photograph. You have all the records, at least the ones that have been made public or given to the family, and which show the ligature marks. And, you know, the way you're describing it, the photo that I'm looking at right now, it doesn't show what, I mean, it's showing what you're saying it's showing. It's not showing the ligature marks in a way for someone who would possibly do that to themselves, as one would say.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't match up. You know, if it was a suicide, these things would be pretty clear. There wouldn't be all this ambiguity. It would be pretty. And you know, one thing I wanted to say before you mentioned about the investigation, the thing is there was no investigation, because once they declared it a suicide, they stopped investigating, because there's nothing to investigate in a suicide other than like the two questions of how and why. And the how is obvious when you come across a suicide victim. So by declaring it a suicide, they never investigated this as a potential homicide. So when they say after a thorough investigation, they determined it was a suicide, there was no investigation. If there was an investigation, they would have questioned all the other prisoners that were on the tier that night. There'd be a lot of other things they would have done, as any investigator would do. It just wasn't done.
Mark, you have other questions. It's not just the ligature marks in the autopsy. The reports that were put out that show video and photographs of the hall, a corridor where your brother's cell was, and the actual cell itself, and the evidence photos from the cell. You have questions about that. Now, this picture that I'm looking at now, you sent me, and you said that door. What did you say about that door with the crime tape and an X across it? What do you say about that?
That was Jeffrey's cell door. You know, after they found him, they sealed it up, but they put the crime tape on it. But that's a cell door. That door does not appear in the video they released. You know, and to get to that cell door, you have to go up a flight of stairs. You have to go through a barred door. You have to get into that cell. So, like I said, in the video, they showed somebody at the beginning of the video, and you can't tell who that person is. They said they're walking into a cell. You don't just walk into that cell. You have to go up the flight of stairs. You have to go in through the barred door, and you have to go into the cell, which was the first cell on the right-hand side once you enter that tier. That's not shown on the video. That video doesn't show anything of any value.
Do you think that they thought it was, that they treated it as if it was a suicide, that they never, you said they never investigated a homicide? Do you think that the evidence was gone, or it was may not have been there to prove otherwise, to prove that it was indeed a homicide?
Well, you know, the evidence that was there, I don't know. We don't know where the evidence is. Where the actual ligature is. You know, I mean, as far as we know, it was never tested for DNA evidence. There may have been like contact DNA from somebody else. You know, that kind of stuff was not done, or at least we don't know that was done. It's just so cryptic. You know, we can't find out anything. I asked, you know, Bill Barr said he saw the videotape that nobody went in or out of the tier. What videotape is he referring to? Was this the videotape that they released that showed nobody went in or out of the tier? Is this the videotape they're referring to, that he was referring to? Because I've asked for the videotape from the camera that Bill Barr was referring to. I wanted to see the tape from 10 o'clock the night before until noon the next day, because that would show the last people to leave the tier when it was locked up at 10:30. And it would also show in the morning when they were taking Jeff's body off the tier to take him to the infirmary, which they should not have done, because he was clearly dead. He was dead for at least 2 hours before they found him. And you're not supposed to move a body until the medical examiner gets there. So the crime scene was immediately destroyed because they moved the body before the examiner got there.
Someone in the chat, Mark, you probably will believe this, is saying, Bill Barr, I think that many people have been fed so much misinformation, and because the information has not been consistent, people are wondering, Bill Barr, what does he have to do with it? This all took place. Your brother's death happened when Bill Barr was the Attorney General of the United States and when Donald Trump was president. Can you please explain to people that that is what's so? And also why you told me what you told me last time that you were on as it relates to Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, yes, Bill Barr was the Attorney General. Donald was the president at the time. And Bill Barr, soon after the death, a few days, came out and said that he personally watched the videotape and saw that nobody went in or out of the cell, out of the tier, and that convinced him it was a suicide. And when I heard that, I thought, well, this is a cover-up, because I thought, number one, why is the Attorney General personally watching the videotape? He could have had somebody look at it and say nobody went in or out. And just by saying that, because nobody went in or out, convinced him it was a suicide. Again, that's obliterating the possibility that somebody who was already on the tier could have killed Jeff. And we can't get a list of who the other prisoners were. I'm trying to find out who the other prisoners were. When did they get there? And where are they now? Were they all prisoners, or was somebody planted there, to do this? These are all questions that a normal homicide investigation would look into, and none of it's been looked into.
Didn't Bill Barr visit your brother shortly before he died?
I have no idea about that. I heard that somewhere before, but
Yes.
I didn't know about that at the time.
Yeah. So I want to play something to you, but again, because that people are really confused about this. And I just want to get your opinion on it. Now, this is a senator, a United States senator, that has no idea about his facts, about the timeline, about what exactly happened when. And I'm just wondering how much this culture of misinformation is possibly affecting the investigation of your brother's death. Here's Senator Mark Wayne Mullen on CNN over the weekend.
And that's why Attorney General Bondi was saying for months. Well, then tell me why for months she was saying that she's going to release the information tomorrow.
We made the assumption that the judges would release the order and allow the evidence that they had, that it could be heard. But it's all been sealed. And so if it's been a sealed case, we can't release it until the judges allow us to release it. And you would think common sense would play. That's why they asked for transparency. We want transparency. We want the judges to have transparency in this too. But remember, there was a plea deal that was struck in 2009, way before I was in office, way before Trump was even considering to be in office, way before Pam Bondi was in office, way before Kash Patel was director. 2009, there was a sweetheart plea deal that was made underneath the Obama administration with Epstein.
Right. That's not
and that sweetheart has not been exposed.
No, it was 2000.
Oh, it's not? Well, when was the case heard?
It was 2008. It was the U.S. attorney at the time was a guy named Alex Acosta. He was a Bush appointee. He went on to become President Trump's Secretary of Labor. It all took place in 2008.
Who was in office at the time?
2008, George W. Bush.
Who was in office at the time?
George W. Bush.
No, 2009 is when the case came out, and it was and Obama was in office at the time.
It's not true. But let me ask you a question.
You're muted, Don.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
Yeah, I was muted. So just one more. I want you to listen to one more of Mark Wayne Mullen. Here it is.
Even weigh in on that. But I'll go back to what you're saying about it wasn't true. The case was sealed in 2009. That's absolutely true. It was heard in 2008. It was sealed in 2009.
The point is that the sweetheart deal, which was completed in 2008, was under the Bush administration, U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta. That's why Alex Acosta resigned in the first Bush administration, because the Miami Herald had written this story in 2018 about how Epstein got away with so much. And then in 2019, the U.S. attorney under President Trump, Jeff Berman in the Southern District of New York, then brought charges against him. So, I mean, there is stuff to say that you could point to that say, like, President Trump did this or President Trump did that.
And remember, in 2019, President Trump and his administration called for it to be unsealed at that time too. It went silent, and not a word was said during the Biden administration. Not a word. Nothing was said during the Biden administration.
People can look it up. The sweetheart deal was 2008 during the George W. Bush administration. But I always appreciate your coming on the show.
So, Mark, again, this is a U.S. senator. So, who really knows anything? What is the real thing? I don't think we'll know until the files actually come out, unless they release all the information so that some transparency can happen.
Well, first of all, I think Jake Tapper had the dates right. I think the senator was incorrect in his timeline. And as far as releasing the files, I don't know what to say about that. And I've said before, that's not my concern. My brother's dead. As far as I'm concerned, the case against him is moot. Because nothing's going to bring him back, and if there's other people involved or other people potentially going to wind up in hot water because of this, I don't want to be cold, but that's not my concern. My concern is the circumstances around my brother's murder.
Mm-hmm. How much do you think that you'll ever get the information that you want?
Well, I don't know, but more and more people are listening, and more people are commenting and seeing through the bullshit. Like, I'm surprised and glad that Joe Rogan has picked up on this, and he's seeing how ridiculous the government's arguments are, about like the 3 broken bones. Nobody's seen that, and they just try to sweep that under the carpet.
Yeah. One more from Joe Rogan, so that you can hear, and I'll get a comment from you. Here it is.
That's just going to hang around.
This is a line in the sand.
Yeah.
This one's a line in the sand.
Yeah.
Because this is one where there's a lot of stuff about, when we thought Trump was going to come in and a lot of things are going to be resolved.
Yeah.
We're going to drain the swamp. We're going to figure everything out. And when you have this one hardcore line in the sand that everybody had been talking about forever, and then they're trying to gaslight you on that.
So he said this is a line in the sand for him. Do you think it'll stick among, I know that you're not a political person, but do you think someone like that, and with the people who have been really Donald Trump supporters and who have the biggest platforms, do you think that will make a difference?
Well, from what I hear, some of his supporters are also questioning this. He's losing some supporters because people are tiring of the bullshit that's constantly flowing out of that administration.
Mark, why do you think there would be such a big cover-up? What is there to cover up?
Well, the cover-up of Jeffrey was murdered. And if he was murdered, assuming he was murdered, all right, then somebody orchestrated this, because you can't just walk in and kill somebody in maximum security in the federal prison. So someone orchestrated this, and the people are hiding the fact. They're covering it up because they don't want to find out who actually had to authorize this hit or sanction this hit. This is, like, again, if it was a normal homicide investigation, you would look for who would benefit by Jeffrey's death, who could have pulled this off, who had the ability to have the Justice Department cover it up, who had the ability to have them, ignore the findings of the 2 qualified forensic pathologists that actually did the autopsy. And everyone else who's making comments about the autopsy, they weren't there. They didn't see the body. So I don't know how you can put their opinions above that of the actual pathologists that have done the autopsy.
Do you think it's too late for like an independent investigation or someone, because I know the administration doesn't want that, but for like a special prosecutor or someone to be assigned, an impartial person to be assigned to reinvestigate your brother's death?
Is it too late? Absolutely not, because there's so much information that is there that we would want to get, that we haven't been able to get, that exists somewhere. I was told that there was somebody on site that in the prison and in the hospital, there was somebody with a handheld video camera videotaping what was going on. So where's the footage from that camera? That would show a lot. I've mentioned before, like in the hospital, I have a photograph of Jeffrey on a gurney. He's clearly dead, and he's wearing a hospital gown. So who decided to dress this dead body in a hospital gown? The kind where you put your arms through the sleeves and it ties in the back. Normally, dead bodies are in body bags or are covered by a sheet. So why did they dress this dead body in a hospital gown? Why were they pumping air into him when they were pulling him out of the prison to take him to the hospital? Why was he intubated, squeezing air into a clearly dead body. And they showed in that photograph when they were wheeling him out, his hands were sort of clenched a little bit because rigor mortis was setting in already. So why the charade of trying to make it look like he was potentially alive or salvageable at that point in time? You know, this is not normal. If this was suicide, he'd be dead. You take him out, dead. You know, there wouldn't be all these questions. There wouldn't be all this irregularities taking place.
Yeah. Well, look, we don't want to spread misinformation there. When I asked you about Bill Barr, there were reports. There was especially one report, it was in the New York Post, turned out to be bogus, that Bill Barr did not visit your brother before he died. Now, he may have questioned the cellmate after your brother died, but Bill Barr was not there visiting your brother, interviewing him before his death. So
yeah,
I
said I don't know about that.
Yeah. But I brought it up, so I want to make it clear because I don't want to give misinformation. I'm not blaming this on you at all. I'm talking about me. Just want to make sure that we get all the information correct. Mark, thank you, man. You've been a very busy man, and I hope you get your questions asked. I hope the victims get justice in all of this, and I hope that your family gets some justice to figure out and some more answers. Let's put it that way. The answers that you want. Okay.
Thanks for taking your time on this.
Absolutely. Thank you. Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother. Now, it's interesting. Now, Mark Epstein he sent me some stuff. I've seen the photographs of, from the autopsy. I've seen the marks that he mentions on the neck and around the ears that are not around his ears. And they're graphic. So we don't want to put it on here, but they are graphic. And I'm sure possibly they may be on the internet somewhere. I have not checked to find that out. But yeah, I do believe that maybe there should be a special prosecutor, or at least some impartial entity, if that is possible, to reinvestigate this so that people get answers. And the other thing that Mark said, it's not his thing about whether the files are released. I think the files should be released. The American people are owed transparency, and so are the victims. Okay? You're going to hear more from on this story, including what the president is saying now as he is trying to change the subject overseas on this Epstein saga. And it's not happening. But first, a word from our sponsors. Support for the Don Lemon Show comes from Magic Spoon. Let me tell you something. I used to love cereal as a kid. I know that you did as well. It was a ritual, cartoons, a giant bowl, and not a care in the world. But as an adult, most cereals are just sugar bombs. That's why I made the switch to Magic Spoon. It tastes like the stuff that you grew up with, but it fuels you like a grown-up should. So 13 grams of protein, 0 sugar, just 4 net carbs, fruity, cocoa, frosted, all the flavors that you remember without the crash. And their treats. Magic Spoon's protein bars are a staple in my bag, especially the chocolate peanut butter and the marshmallow. Perfect for those late night cravings or a quick snack between shoots. So try it today and get $5 off at magicspoon.com/lemon. That's magicspoon.com/lemon. Or check it out on Amazon or your local store. Support today comes from Chef IQ. If you've ever overcooked a steak or dried out chicken trying to multitask in the kitchen or at the grill, I've been there too, right? So that's why I started using Chef IQ Sense. It is a smart wireless sensor that takes the guesswork out of cooking. I just drop it in, pick what I'm cooking and how I want it, medium rare, well done, whatever. And Chef IQ Sense tracks the temperature perfectly and sends an alert to my phone at the moment it is ready. No sweating over a grill or checking every 30 seconds. Now I can entertain, relax, or shoot content while Chef IQ handles the timing. It's like having a private chef right in your pocket or right in your phone. Okay, so right now during the flash sale, you can get 15% off. Go to chefiq.com and use the promo code LEMON. That's chefiq.com and use that promo code LEMON. All right, thanks to our sponsors. Now let's get back to the program. So you heard from Jeffrey Epstein's brother. This Jeffrey Epstein story, I'm telling you, you guys, it is not over yet. And I'm sure some of you are like, Don, why are you still doing Epstein? Why are you still talking about it? You guys know. Can you please tell the folks in the chat why we are still talking about this? Because the story is Epstein. Donald Trump is overseas, touting that he has a trade deal with the EU. Okay, the questions were about what? Jeffrey Epstein. Donald Trump was overseas, and he was questioned about immigration. I know. Well, at least he had some answers about immigration that I want you to hear that are not really comprehensive. I cannot comprehend what he's saying because he just keeps going on from one subject to another, and it's not making sense. and another subject that we're going to fact check him on as it relates to energy in this country, or energy for a fact. Okay? So let's discuss Donald Trump. And am I still on? I'm not sure if I'm still on.
Yeah, you're on.
I'm still on? Okay.
Yeah, we got you.
All right. I just want to make sure. I was like, I didn't see myself for a while. I couldn't get back to what I wanted. I couldn't do any of the things. Okay. So this is Donald Trump is giving. I forgot to ask Mark about this. Donald Trump has given several explanations, and I'll get him back on and we can talk about it. Has given an explanation, or gave an explanation about why he and Jeffrey Epstein fell out, reportedly. Now, he has said before that Jeffrey Epstein was a creep. Jeffrey Epstein said, I didn't do it because he had no morals. He was a horrible person. He had no scruples. Paraphrasing here. That was a sentiment, though. And that's according to Jeffrey Epstein's brother. And I believe the same thing from Michael Wolff, the biographer and reporter and writer, said the same thing. So CNBC said Trump says he cut ties over Epstein for stealing workers. Apparently, meaning Jeffrey Epstein in Palm Beach was going to Mar-a-Lago and poaching Donald Trump's workers from Mar-a-Lago. That's what Donald Trump is saying this morning. That's what CNBC is reporting. And here's Donald Trump actually saying it for himself, and not even talking about the first reason that he gave, because he said the moment he found out he was a creep, that he dropped him. Which one is real? Here it is.
The story about the time he threw him out of Mar-a-Lago. Can you settle that? What was it about? What caused the breach with him?
That's such old history. Very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that work for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah. So in every response to press inquiries for the past couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks or so, White House officials have said that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because Epstein was a creep. That's what they have said. Not only is Donald Trump flip-flopping and he's making up shit, but he's making his entire White House look like fools, his entire administration look like fools. Because they say one thing and he says another. He contradicts them. Had you ever heard this whole thing that he was poaching workers from Mar-a-Lago? Do you think it's true? Do you actually think that Donald Trump found Jeffrey Epstein to be a creepy person and then dropped ties with him? In that video, when you see him and Jeffrey Epstein checking out women, and when he has like Donald Trump is a white man overbite, or he and Jeffrey are so close that I thought they were going to hug or smooch. Did you think that Donald Trump would think that that person was a creep? They seemed like birds of a feather in that moment and very happy together. And if they knew each other and they were very close friends. And so now another excuse. He kicked him out because he was poaching workers from Mar-a-Lago. Okay. That is a new one to me and a new one to the White House staff as well. And now you have folks like Joe Rogan saying this represents a line in the sand. Donald Trump cannot get his story straight to save his life at all. Now, I want to show you something because I want to talk about Donald Trump's Donald Trump's cognitive abilities, what people are discussing. And he doesn't want to discuss. And I want you guys to listen to this because Donald Trump goes on this whole tangent about, I think they were discussing immigration. And then Donald Trump goes from immigration to windmills in the most bizarre rant that I've heard. Now, I want you to imagine that if Joe Biden exhibited this same behavior. What would Donald Trump do? What would MAGA do? What would the reporters do? What would the people who are writing books do? What would they do? If this was Joe Biden, they'd be writing more books and excuse me, if it was Joe Biden, they'd be writing more books and more articles. Oh my gosh, he's out of it. But nobody's writing that Donald Trump is out of it. At least that I have seen. Here's Donald Trump going on what he calls a weave, or I don't know what he's doing. Here it is.
We've sealed our borders. We have nobody coming in, and we have hundreds of thousands of people being taken out, and the bad ones first. And I think we're doing a very good job of that. But we had, I mean, it literally registered 0 people last month. You probably saw that. Nobody. And Europe has a very similar problem. I think they're going to end up in the same place. You might as well go there quicker. And the other thing I say to Europe, we will not allow a windmill to be built in the United States. They're killing us. They're killing the beauty of our scenery, our valleys, our beautiful plains. And I'm not talking about airplanes. I'm talking about beautiful plains, beautiful areas in the United States. And you look up and you see windmills all over the place. It's a horrible thing. It's the most expensive form of energy. It's no good. They're made in China, almost all of them. When they start to rust and rot in 8 years, you can't really turn them off. You can't bury them. They won't let you bury the propellers, you know, the props, because there's a certain type of fiber that doesn't go well with the land. That's what they say. The environmentalists say you can't bury them because the fiber doesn't go well with the land. In other words, if you bury it, it will harm our soil. The whole thing is a con job. It's very expensive. And in all fairness, Germany tried it, and wind doesn't work. You need subsidy for wind, and energy should not need subsidy. With energy, you make money. You don't lose money. But more important than that is it ruins the landscape. It kills the birds. They're noisy. You know, you have a certain place in the Massachusetts area that over the last 20 years had 1 or 2 whales wash ashore, and over the last short period of time, they had 18. Okay? Because it's driving them loco. It's driving them crazy. Now, windmills will not come. It's not going to happen in the United States. And it's very expensive. And I would love to see. I mean, today I'm playing the best course, I think, in the world, Turnberry.
Wow.
Even though I own it, it's probably the best course in the world, right? And I look over the horizon and I see 9 windmills. It's like right at the end of the 18th. I said, isn't that a shame? What a shame. You have the same thing all over Europe in particular. You have windmills all over the place. Some of the countries prohibit it, but people ought to know that these windmills are very destructive. They're environmentally unsound, just the exact opposite. Because the environmentalists, they're not really environmentalists. They're political hacks. These are people that they almost want to harm the country. But you look at these beautiful landscapes all over the world. Many countries have gotten smart. They will not allow it. They will not. It's the worst form of energy, the most expensive form of energy.
I just let that play. Come on. Wouldn't you guys be like, sure, Grandpa? Yeah, it's the windmills, Grandpa. Yeah, the windmills did it. Can you guys make sure you get his keys? Yeah. Hide his keys. Sure, Grandpa. Oh, yeah, it's the windmills. Why is nobody writing about this? This person come on. He went from immigration to windmills and then gave all kinds of lies about windmills. Now, I'm going to give you a fact check on the windmills, and they're going to tell you why Donald Trump, you guys know this story, right? You guys know why Donald Trump doesn't like windmills. It has to do with the same reason that he is in Scotland. But it's because of the same place that he's at in Scotland, Turnberry, his golf course. Now, let me give you some facts because here's what he claimed, okay? He said that wind is very expensive, a very expensive form of energy. He said it's the most expensive or very expensive. This is a fact check. This is the Associated Press. This is nonpartisan, okay? The facts. Offshore wind is one of the cheapest, not the most expensive, one of the cheapest sources of electricity generation, with new wind farms expected to produce electricity around $30 per megawatt hour. This compares to a new natural gas plant around $65 per megawatt per hour. So it's half of what it costs. New advanced nuclear reactor, which runs over $80 per megawatt hour. That's according to estimates from the Energy Information Administration. Offshore wind farms cost less to build and operate than natural gas plants on average in most regions of the United States, even without tax credits. That's one fact check. Now, the one thing I think that he did get right is that China is the number one producer there. The facts are, he said China was China is, I think he said, most of them are produced. That's what he said. Wind turbines are almost exclusively made in China. But Xi Jinping told Trump they have very, very few of them. China is the world's largest manufacturer of wind turbines, producing more than half of the supply. It's also installing them in China at a record pace. In total, China has 1.3 terawatts of utility scale wind and solar capacity in development, which could generate more electricity than neighboring Japan consumed in all of 2023. So considering how cheap it is, that it's better for the environment, China is better off with their green energy than America is. At least 136 countries and territories around the world use wind power to generate electricity. So other countries use it. Another claim that Trump made in England, he said 2 wells washed up over 50 years. And last summer they had 14 washed up. Now I'm saying that the wind farm that was built, that maybe it is, that's what it is, right? That's not even English. The facts are, this is a fact, there are no known links between large whale deaths and ongoing offshore wind activities. That's according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is NOAA, which says it analyzes causes of death whenever possible, following the science and data. Unfounded claims about offshore wind threatening whales have surfaced as a flashpoint in the fight over the future of renewable energy. This man lies every time he opens his mouth, pretty much. Pretty much. The birds are dying all over the place, he said. Turbines, like all infrastructure, can pose a risk to birds. You know what else poses a risk to birds? Windows, screen doors, windshields, cars. You guys have never seen a bird run into a glass door or a glass or a window or a screen door? Happens all the time. Turbines, like all infrastructure, can pose a risk to birds. However, the National Audubon Society, which is dedicated to the conservation of birds, thinks developers can manage these risks and climate change is a greater threat. Climate change is a greater threat than the risk wind turbines, pose to birds. Now, fact checking is not sexy, but I think it is necessary because we like to give the facts here. And then he claimed you can take them down because the environment, you can't take them down because the environmentalists don't let you bury the blades. You heard him say that. Oh, they're bad for the environment. You can't bury them. Now, here, this is the fact. Wind turbine blades are challenging to recycle. They are designed for durability, obviously, to withstand hurricane force winds, obviously. However, the U.S. already has the ability to recycle most wind turbine materials. According to the Department of Energy, it issued a report in January that found 90% of wind turbines can be recycled using existing infrastructure, while new strategies and innovative recycling methods will be needed to tackle the rest. The industry says that the disposal of them can be an issue, but they have learned how to recycle most of it or much of it. So, unfounded. Now, this is one that I want you to see. This one is from The Guardian, okay? Trump's war on windmills started in Scotland. I want you to know why Donald Trump is so upset about windmills. He hates it because he had an issue with it. You guys know this story? He had an issue with it at his Turnberry property in Scotland. And here's the deal. This is what happened. Okay. President Trump's war on windmills started in Scotland. Now he is taking it global. The president's opposition to offshore wind more than a decade ago now threatens a huge industry in the U.S. and beyond. Let me make sure my producers have this so I can give it to them, because this is what I'm reading. I don't know if I necessarily sent it to them.
I have it.
You got it? Okay. So Donald Trump's bitter dislike of renewable energy first erupted publicly, this was 14 years ago, in a seemingly trivial spat over wind turbines visible from his Scottish golf course. As Trump returns to Scotland this week, though he is using the U.S. presidency to squash clean power with major ramifications for the climate crisis and American place in the world, Trump will visit Turnberry and then Aberdeenshire golf course during the Scottish trip. So he thought the wind turbines were ugly back then. He wanted them taken down. They fought. He said the windmills were destroying the place and that the windmills were going to destroy the property value, none of which was true, because he lost his fight with windmills. He has been railing against them ever since. If he does not like you, if he wants something, and even if he wants it done nefariously, obviously he's going to sue, take you to court, or he's going to trash you, or both. And so now he's trying to trash the wind turbine industry because he doesn't like the way it looks or what he believes it's doing to the value of his property. That's according to the reports. More to come after a break from our sponsors. Support for the show today comes from Mint Mobile. You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your wireless bill. Whether it's beach trips or cookouts, your cell plan shouldn't be the last thing draining your budget. That's why some of my team have made the switch to Mint Mobile. Same coverage and speed as the big guys, no drop in quality, but the price, way better. You get unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. High-speed data, unlimited talk and text, and no surprises. Just real savings on the same 5G network you already use. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank and get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/DonLemon. That's mintmobile.com/DonLemon. Upfront payment of $45 is required. That's the equivalent of $15 a month. It's a limited time, new customer offer for the first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 GB or on the unlimited plan. Taxes and extra fees may apply. Just check out mintmobile.com for more details. The Don Lemon Show today is brought to you by the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Here's what's happening right now. Politicians across the country are injecting religion into public schools. We're talking the 10 Commandments in classrooms, chaplains without training, and tax dollars going to private religious schools, many of which exclude LGBTQ students or kids who aren't Christian. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation is fighting back. They're in the courts, in Congress, and in classrooms defending the First Amendment and keeping public education secular and inclusive. The separation of church and state is important. To learn more, go to ffrf.us/school or text my name, Don, that's D-O-N, to 511-511. That's ffrf.us/school or text Don to 511-511. Message and data rates may apply. All right. Thank you so much to our sponsors. We love our sponsors. We're glad that they are here with us, and we're glad that they're supporting us, and we're glad that you're supporting us as well. Make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the thumbs up, and become a member. That's how we stay viable out here on these streets. Now, here's an interesting thing. You guys know that Donald Trump has been trying to make up every single excuse in the book to change the narrative. He is even going so much as to go overseas, to go to his golf course in Scotland. Did he have to do that? No. Didn't have to. And it was an overseas trip. Did he have to do it at his place? No. Again, this is all a show. It's all stagecraft. Just like he had Caroline Leavitt sitting there with all the leaders, the EU leaders today. For what reason? I don't know why. But he's lying about Barack Obama, as you know, saying that this is all Barack Obama's fault. Somehow this is happening because it's Barack Obama's fault. I don't know why that is. That it is Joe Biden's fault. I'm not sure how it's Joe Biden's fault as well. You know, he's jealous of Barack Obama. So he's claiming Barack Obama did something odd when it comes to the Russia report, that he forged or faked an investigation or unduly influenced an investigation, which there is absolutely no proof. And now he is blaming the vice president, Kamala Harris, saying something very similar. Now, here's what he said. This is what he tweeted, or whatever you want to call it. Donald J. Trump says, I'm looking at the large amount of money owed by the Democrats after the presidential election, and the fact is that they admit to paying probably illegally $11 million to singer Beyonce for an endorsement. She never sang not one note and left the stage to a booing and angry audience. What world is he living in? Because do we have that? Because I want you to show when Beyonce left the stage with Kelly and Michelle. There was no booing. As a matter of fact, it was the exact opposite. $3 million for expenses to Oprah, $600,000 to a very low-rated TV anchor, Al Sharpton, a total lightweight, and others to be named for doing absolutely nothing. These ridiculous fees were incorrectly stated in the book of records. In the books and records, you are not allowed to pay for an endorsement. It is totally illegal to do so. Can he focus on the illegal shit that he's done and is doing now? Can he focus on the fact that he is a convicted felon, that he's a convicted criminal? Can you imagine what would happen, he says, if politicians started paying for people to endorse them? Yeah, you would get a Donald Trump in office. That's what would happen. Duh. Why do you think people got so many pardons? Who donated to your campaign for favors? How many people did that? How many people thought maybe that they would get some more subsidies or that they would be okay, their companies and all of that, if you were president, so they gave you money? Every accusation is a confession here for Donald Trump. All hell would break out, he says. Kamala and all those that received endorsement money broke the law, he said. They should all be prosecuted. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Carry on. This man is out of his mind. And I hate to say that every single day, but I cannot believe that this man is president of the United States. Who would be dumb enough to vote for him? I guess a lot of people did. Now they're saying, well, you know what? I don't think he's being on the up and up with us regarding the Jeffrey Epstein. No kidding. So he's saying the same thing about Oprah. He's saying the same thing about Beyonce and all of that. Okay. This is Daniel Dale. First of all, this is a full screen, the post of Beyonce. Okay, that's what he posted about Trump's post. This is over on the CNN, Daniel Dale speaking out about this so-called Beyonce scandal and that it is imaginary. Here it is.
I found that this claim about an $11 million payment is imaginary. This simply did not happen. There is not one shred of evidence that the Harris campaign or any other Democrat paid Beyonce anything like $11 million for an endorsement. Now, this claim began circulating among random Trump supporters on social media last year. It's been repeatedly investigated by fact-check outlets. No one has produced any support for it. The White House did not comment when I reached out this time. Now, federal election spending records do show that the Harris campaign made a $165,000 payment to Beyonce's production company after this event you're seeing where Beyonce endorsed then Vice President Harris at an event in Houston in October 2024. But two things about that. First of all, there's no evidence that this was payment for an endorsement. The Harris campaign said that they're obligated by law to cover the ancillary costs related to celebrity appearances when celebrities come to their events. And second of all, $165,000 is a far cry from 11 million. That figure just seems to have been fabricated, invented out of thin air. So I reached out to the Harris campaign about this. They pointed me to a post last year from Beyonce's mother, Tina Knowles, who posted that it was a lie and noted that it had been taken down as false information by Instagram at the time. Beyonce's own spokesperson told PolitiFact in November 2024 that this claim is, quote, beyond ridiculous. Now, again, I did reach out to the White House about this to ask where the president got this claim, not only that there was an $11 million payment, but that Democrats admit that there was. They certainly have not. They didn't respond. So I went looking to see what the president himself had said previously about this. It turns out he referenced it in February, and he spoke of his source in the vaguest possible terms. He said, somebody just showed me something. So that's not much of anything. Now, I'll add one more thing. In this same social media post, the president asserted that it is, quote, totally illegal to pay someone for endorsements. It turns out that's not true either. So there's no evidence there was endorsement payments by the Harris campaign. They said they did not pay for endorsement, but there is no federal law that prohibits a hypothetical candidate from hypothetically paying some influencer, some celebrity to endorse them. It doesn't exist.
All right. Daniel Dale is also always very thorough. It's important that you hear this stuff. Again, not a lot of it. It's not always sexy, especially fact checks. It's not always sexy, the most interesting thing, but it's really important to know. Someone says he's so boring. I get it. But the truth is important. It is important that you hear the truth 100%. Now, see, this is a difference between them. So the Democrats or whatever, they'll come out and they say, this is not true. This is blah, 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 blah. And instead of creating their own narrative, which I think that they should figure out, they should have put out some release saying that Donald Trump is absolutely ridiculous or whatever it is. They should be pumping this up because imagine if the Democrats got it wrong like that, and it would be all over. The Republicans would be standing by it. And the Democrats don't know how to do that. Are they figuring it out? I don't know, maybe. But the Republicans have. Now, this is going to be interesting to see Ezra Klein. I've had this for some reason, this podcast has been on, I guess it's a podcast or streaming show, whatever it is, we've played more from this comedian than I ever remember. But I think they figured out exactly that what Democrats should be doing and what Republicans do well that Democrats should be taking, I should say, at least a cue from them. Here it is, same podcast. And Ezra Klein from the New York Times is on this sort of right-wing podcast. Here it is.
This is what I think Republicans do really well, is they exploit the most extreme version of Democrats, and then they paint it across the whole party.
Democrats do that to the right, too, right? The thing that has happened on the right is they have embraced that side of themselves, right? I always think about this. If I had been a liberal Substacker in the fall of 2024, I was like, fucking people, you don't understand what's coming. If Donald Trump gets elected, he's going to make Kash Patel and Dan Bongino the heads of the FBI. He's going to put RFK Jr. at HHS. He's going to try to make Matt Gaetz the Attorney General. He'll be like, calm down, dude. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, you can't define the Republican Party by its most extreme wing in some, like, way. It is its most extreme way. Like, I would not have written that. I would have found that far-fetched.
Right.
Like, truly far-fetched.
Casual observer, you were reading my mind. People did say that. We said that. We said, imagine Donald Trump. I think I said Donald Trump unleashed or Donald Trump untethered or with no guardrails is what I said. Imagine the people he's going to put in place. We said those things. I love you, Ezra Klein, but people said that. You know who else said that a lot? You guys know. Let me see if you guys know in the chat. Do you know who else said that a lot? What Donald Trump was going to do? Thank you, Faith, in the chat. Kamala Harris painted this whole picture and said the exact same thing about what Donald Trump was going to do. Thank you all in the chat. They said that. But no one believed her. I shouldn't say no one believed her. A lot of folks did not believe her enough that she did not become president of the United States, and instead they elected a lying, thieving felon, convicted felon at that. I know I showed you guys this morning, but this is, I think, sums up Donald Trump's whole personality. He is out on the golf course. So you know, Donald Trump, I'm sure he teaches his caddies well, or they at least know. And they're like, hey, this is the president of the United States, it's Donald Trump, right? Now, I want you to keep your eye on the ball. And people say, keep your eye on the ball. Donald Trump is playing golf this past weekend at his golf estate or compound in Scotland. Here it is, golf club.
Saga.
Watch your caddy in front. Watch right hand. There you go. Oh! Whoa! Watch it again. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the ball. Oh! And then Donald Trump walks right up because you know he's what? He didn't even go in the sand trap to get it. He had a ball in his hand and he threw it out and dropped it. And Donald Trump is sitting in the golf cart looking right at him. Cyber Gathica, whatever. You're right. Donald Trump lies about everything. Everything he touches is like a lie. Okay, guys. So listen, if you're at a certain tier of membership for the Don Lemon Show, you get our private stream. And I'm ready for our private stream. I got the glass. I'm gonna pour a little something. And we're gonna have a private stream. We're gonna talk about these issues, and I'm gonna read all of your questions. We're gonna answer your questions, and we're gonna discuss everything. Okay? Check us out at donlemon.com for everything you need, including our merch store, everything, where you can get us, all kinds of streaming stuff. Also, you'll tell you dates that we're going to be out. I'm going to be out with D.L. Hughley August 12th. We got an update on the tickets. They're going well. We're heading towards selling out, so go buy your tickets. It's going to be a great one. August 12th, City Winery, 7:30. Doors open at 6 o'clock. Get your drink on, get your food on, get all of the fun on, and there you go. Okay? So make sure you go check it out. Go to the City Winery website. If you can't go to the donlemon.com, it's on there. If you go into I think it's on the community page in the Don Lemon Show on YouTube. But just go to Google City Winery and Don Lemon and D.L. Hughley. Okay. So I'm going to join our folks in the private chat, our members, our legends, and our lemon heads. They're going to be in the private chat in just moments. So until I see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., you are informed now without being inundated. So turn the TV off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never, ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will